Welcome to the 8th episode of the Octopus Hangout. With me today is Jeremy.
Hello. What?
Wow, just had a super big brain fart there.
I'm
And
Jordan.
thank you very much. Wow, that was really bad.
I was trying to figure out what was going on.
Yeah.
I had it all playing in my head, and then right when it happened, I was like, crap.
I'm glad you think highly of me.
Jordan, as always. Oh, goodness.
I haven't been on this before, in your defense.
Yeah. Let's kick it off with some Olympic news. Gustav Nyquist was invited to Sweden's orientation camp. And Abdelkader was invited to US's, and so is Daniel DeKeyser. What do you think of their chances of actually making the team for the Olympics?
That's a tough one. I don't like Nyquist's chances of making Sweden. I think Sweden's, they have so much talent. I think it's going to take some injuries or something to happen for him to crack that squad, so I don't really like his chances. Abdelkader and DeKeyser, depending on, this year they can keep up to 25 players, whereas the last Olympics it was only 23, so that's got to help their case. So, I mean, if you look, if US, for instance, keeps 8 or 9 defensemen, then maybe DeKeyser has a shot to crack that. I almost would think that, as funny as it is to say, I think DeKeyser's chances of making the team are maybe a little bit better than Abdelkader's, because I think that they have a really good forward group, the American team, so I think that's going to be a tougher squad to crack than the defense. So, but I mean, both of them are going to be really up against it to make the team.
Yeah, I would agree with that. With regards to Nyquist, Sweden is just loaded. There's so much talent on that squad. In every Olympic year, we talk about how loaded Sweden is. In a few years, maybe, but I think Nyquist is a little young at this point. Still a little raw in some senses. I don't think he's going to make the team, but it's a really good sign that he was invited to try out. As for Abdelkader and DeKeyser, I think one of them has a really good chance to make it. I don't think both will. But you talk about the solid forward core the U.S. has, and I lean a little more towards DeKeyser getting a chance because he's already so polished at the back end. He's so polished defensively that he'll get, I think, more of a look than Abdelkader will.
Yeah, and I think the way that DeKeyser skates on the big ice, that's going to be something really attractive to the American team, to have a mobile, big defenseman like him as well.
I find it a little interesting that both of you guys are going with DeKeyser over Abdelkader. That there isn't a whole lot to show on DeKeyser in like big moments because he only played a few games for the Red Wings and only a few games in the playoffs as well. Whereas Abdelkader has a lot of NHL years on him, and I think Abdelkader got a lot of a big push to make the team by playing on the first line next to Datsuk. So I think I'm going with Abdelkader having the better shot for USA for the fact that he has the time put in. They've seen him at the NHL level for a long time. They've seen him grow. They watched him grow on the first line next to Datsuk. They saw what he could do there. He put up 10 goals, which is pretty big for the shortened season, and a guy who was moving between, the third, fourth, and then up to the first line. As for Nyquist, I'd put Nyquist and DeKeyser together. I think both of those additions were, okay, let's see where these guys are. And in 4 years, whether it's the Olympics or the World Cup of Hockey, I don't know if the NHL is moving away from the Olympics along with everyone else. But no matter what it is, that they're looking at what they can do now, and then over those next 4 years, how they grow, and then that will be their Olympics or the World Cup of Hockey that they play in.
Yeah. I mean, if I was putting money on it, I would say none of them make it. to be honest.
Yeah, and that's
I
a
would agree with
big
that.
possibility. That's a big possibility, and Abdelkader's just growing into it, but I think if you have a guy with his kind of talent on the third or fourth line for the U.S., it's someone who not only can grind it but can score goals. But again, there's a lot of those players, so you never know.
Yeah.
It's a really good sign that they're all getting considered for roles on the teams. But I agree with Jordan. If I were putting money down, I'd say none of them make it.
Let's keep with the USA theme and say talk about the starting goalie for Team USA. Jimmy Howard was invited. Then you have last Olympics Ryan Miller's there who helped the U.S. get to silver, and then the big guy on the list, who everyone thinks is going to take it, is Jonathan Quick. What do you guys feel about Howard's chances of starting or even getting on the Olympic roster?
I think his chances of getting on the roster are really, really good. Last year he was phenomenal. The Wings almost made the conference final. He's become an elite goaltender, at least in my mind, and I'm sure in several Wings fans' minds, he's become an elite goaltender. I would say his chances are better than Miller actually to back up Jonathan Quick, because I think Quick is going to be the starter. Because Quick is the best goalie in the NHL. He's been the best goalie 2 years running now, I think. But I think Howard has an excellent shot of making the team.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that. I mean, the one thing is I think that they've said whichever goalie has the better first half of the season, it'll probably be the one that gets to play. So, I mean, the opportunity is certainly there for Howard. If he comes out in October, November, December and just is lights out for the Red Wings and we're first place and he's playing great, he could easily be starting. Do I think that's going to happen? I'm not sure. I would say Quick it's his job to lose, I would say. But I think Howard is a close number 2 as we stand right now in August.
Well, I always like to go and look at some of the stats, and for goals against average and save percentage, Jimmy Howard and Henrik Lundqvist are the only two goaltenders to be top 10 in both of them the past two seasons.
Mhm.
That's Jonathan Quick couldn't do it. Ryan Miller couldn't do it. Craig Anderson, who's another goaltender who was invited, couldn't do it. I mean, if you're looking for consistency over the 7 games or however many games the Olympics are going to be, I mean, you have to go with a guy who proves that he has the consistency with him. Especially since Jonathan Quick had not a very good season this year. He showed up in the playoffs and he was very dominant in the playoffs, but for a regular season, Quick was not very good at all, and neither was Ryan Miller. As a Red Wings fan, I'd love Howard to get the experience of going, but I don't want him to start. And this is the very selfish reason being it puts minutes on him. He's playing games. He's playing games back to back. I prefer him to take it easy there, maybe as a backup or a third, get the experience, come back fresh, along
Yeah.
with most of the rest of the team, and go after the Stanley Cup, which is always the goal.
Be fresher for a playoff run. Yeah, I can certainly see that. I understand that totally.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I mean, I wouldn't want him to start either, but it would be nice for him just to get the experience, maybe even start a game or two. You know what I mean? Just to give him
Yeah.
that shot of confidence and feel that he can play in like the big moments because he really, I think Detroit hasn't made it even to the conference final now with him as a starter. So to get an opportunity to play in those big moments, I think would be really key for his career and his development.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Although I don't think Howard's ever lacked confidence throughout his career with the Red Wings.
No, no.
Yeah, especially this last season, he took kind of more of a leadership role, kind of made the net more of his own.
Definitely. Let's move back to Team Sweden and talk about Daniel Alfredsson not being invited to the orientation camp. Do you feel it? And here's the thing: the guys who are in charge talked about how, just because you weren't invited to the orientation camp doesn't mean you're going to be not going to be on the Olympic roster. You can still be on the Olympic roster. And maybe it's Alfredsson saying, I'm not going to go to the camp. Maybe it's Alfredsson saying, I don't want to play on it this year. How do you guys feel it as a snub or something else?
I find it hard to believe that they would snub Daniel Alfredsson because he's a great player. He's been a great player for so many years. I think it's more of a thing of him wanting to stay fresh for the regular season. Maybe not push himself through the camp. I have a hard time believing that he would be told no for making Team Sweden. Even though they are loaded in several other places, I have a hard time believing they would say no to him.
Yeah, I agree. I think if he wants to play, he'll be on the team. I still think I think he'll be on that team, but I don't see it as a snub. I think it was just they weren't sure whether he was going to retire or what was going to happen, and they wanted to have the list of guys who were going to be there for sure. So I think if he's healthy and he wants to play, you'll probably see him on the team.
So you guys both chalk it up to being Alfredsson's decision whether he wants to play or not. It's not really up to Sweden to say no to him.
Uh, I don't I don't see them saying no to him, to be honest. I
Yeah,
think
it's hard to believe, you know.
But
I
then
mean,
again,
anything's possible, but
I mean, you also look at a guy who's 40 years old, and maybe Team Sweden's core is getting kind of up there in years. Maybe they want to start bringing in these younger guys. And even though Alfredsson's a proven commodity, you got the Sedin twins, you got Zetterberg, you have Franz, and you don't really need that another one of those top line guys. What you need is the third or fourth line guys, and you can bring in younger guys to fill those roles.
and
Maybe it's
it
something
could be
along that line.
yeah, I'm not totally dismissing that, but it just seems to me that they wouldn't turn him down. That he would have to turn them down.
no, and
That's just what it seems to me.
I think there's still room for him on that team, even if it is a third line role for I as for the younger guys, I think the Olympics, it's all about winning right now, and I still think with Daniel Alfredsson can play, and I think with him on the team, they're a better team.
Yeah, that is very true. I think Daniel Alfredsson still makes him a better team, which is one of the reasons I liked him coming to Detroit. I think he's still a great player, and if Sweden turned him down, and especially with the team that they have, it would hurt their chances at Olympic gold.
Yeah. I mean, I saw him play live last year. I got down to Ottawa for a game, and I was that was the first time I'd seen him play live, and I was really caught off guard at how good he was in that game. He scored 2 goals, one-timers from the right side. I mean, his shot was so impressive, and it was so clear that his level hasn't dropped even though he's up near 40. I was super impressed with him last year.
Okay, let's move on from the Olympics and talk about a couple of guys, former Red Wings, who are still on the open market, and Damien Brunner and Daniel Cleary. Uh, these guys have been on the market for a long time now, a month. What do you see them? When do you see them even signing, if they will sign?
Well, I'll address Brunner first.
Mhm.
Hey, I don't know his agent. I don't know what they're doing, but he's kind of painted himself in a corner. You know what I mean? He wants $4 million to play. Who's going to pay him that? Detroit didn't want to. I mean, he doesn't have enough. He doesn't have enough of a track record to warrant that kind of money. So obviously, there's no teams jumping at the bit here to get him signed. So who knows I think he will eventually sign, but I don't think it's going to be. I don't think someone's going to. If Jersey wasn't going to give him $4 million, who's gonna do it? I don't. I think he'll get signed, but for less than that. Cleary, part of me still thinks that the Red Wings are going to get Cleary done. But it's going to be late. I think it's going to be close to training camp time. He's holding out, and they're going to see what's going to happen with the roster if they can trade anyone and create some space. But I don't know. This is just my heart, but I still think that Dan Cleary will be a Red Wing come regular season.
I'll talk about Brunner first. Brunner's case interests me almost endlessly. here's a guy who came over, highly touted, shorted season, could do really well, boost his value on the open market, goes through really inconsistent stretches, has a good postseason. The Red Wings make him a couple pretty reasonable offers. I mean, 3-year offers, $3 million a year. He turns them both down. And Jersey was close to signing him, but then it appears as if they went in a different direction by signing Jágr. I don't know how related to the Brunner negotiations that was, but it makes you think. Maybe the Red Wings knew something about Brunner, maybe they didn't. He is demanding a lot of money for a guy who's had one lockout-shortened season in the NHL, was pretty inconsistent during it. I think he gets signed, but it's not going to be for a few more weeks still, and I have no idea who's going to sign him. If it wasn't Jersey, I don't know who's going to sign him. Maybe Nashville. I mean, that's just throwing a name out there. They need some goal scoring.
For $4 million?
Not for $4 million.
Well, I don't think he's ever going to get $4 million now that Nashville's out of the picture. I thought Nashville was the spot. Like that was it. Kovalchuk retired, and there was a huge gaping hole.
You mean New Jersey?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry. It's the day of brain farts for me.
You're slipping today.
I am slipping. Oh jeez. But yeah, Kovalchuk retired in New Jersey, and it's the big hole, and you're like, oh, this is definitely where Brunner's going. They don't care. They'll pay him the money just to get that spot filled. And all of a sudden, well, here's Jágr. And you're like, well...
That's interesting.
Yeah. What happened? On the note of Daniel Cleary, for the Red Wings to bring him back, I mean, right now we're 2 guys over the roster limit when we bring back Nyquist and Anderson. I don't know how you move 3 guys to bring in Cleary as well. I mean, that's like saying, okay, 2-2's been rumored to go back to Nashville. That opens 1 spot. Get Samuelson to waive his no-trade clause for someone. That's another spot. Patrick Eaves maybe goes somewhere. That's your 3rd. Or maybe you just drop out Emerton, Eaves, and Tutu. None of them have anything that would block that. And then you leave yourself with only 4 centermen with an injured Darren Helm just returning back to the ice. I mean, that's not a good position to be in either.
Yeah, the Cleary situation, it's still in a state of flux. They need to get Anderson and Nyquist signed, and once they get that done, I mean, I did see the Tutu back to Nashville rumor. They do prefer Emerton over Tutu apparently, so it doesn't appear as if he's gonna go anywhere. It's still in a state of flux. I mean, that won't get settled for a few weeks still either.
Yeah, the thing about Cleary, I guess why I think there's still a chance for him to be in Detroit too, is that he said that he wants to be in Detroit. And it doesn't seem, whereas the Brunner thing seems like it's all about money, it doesn't seem quite the same thing with Cleary. You know, Pittsburgh showed interest, Anaheim, there was Dallas, there was a few other teams that Cleary could have went to, but I just had the feeling that he's kind of holding out hope till the last minute to see that if there's any way that the Red Wings can fit him in. But we'll see.
Yeah, I think Cleary's more about term length rather than money. Although, what I think he wanted from the Red Wings was 3 years, $3 million.
Yeah, that was it.
I think the Red Wings offered him 2 years at 2.5 or something like that. Mm-hmm. But I think he really wants that 3rd year, which is causing him to kind of hold out a bit. Yeah, on the fact about Corey Emerton, he's much more valuable than Jordan Tutu, especially with Darren Helm possibly being still hurt. You got to have that 5th centerman who can kind of fill in that bottom role. I mean, if Stephen Weiss gets hurt, or if Datsuk gets hurt, or if Zetterberg gets hurt, those 3 guys can kind of sub out for each other. You know, if Darren Helm gets hurt, they'd have to drop down to the AHL if Corey Emerton's not around.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the $550,000 is pretty nice too.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
It affords him a nice refrigerator box in downtown Detroit. Double level, of course.
Mm-hmm.
moving on from the guys who aren't signed, Helen St. James was talking about Abdelkader possibly being the next Thomas Holmstrom, and then we did a write up about comparing the two of them. Do you see Abdelkader possibly filling that Thomas Holmstrom role?
Well, Homer's my guy. That's my favorite Red Wing ever. So I'm not going to say that anyone is going to replace Homer. But I think there's a potential there that he could fill. He could somewhat fit into that type of role. But I don't think anyone's going to be Homer. You know what I mean? Homer was just absolutely fearless in front of the net. He'd just stand there. It wouldn't matter if it was Chara shooting slap shots at him. He would not move, and his eye-hand coordination was maybe the best in the league. The guy would pick off 100-mile-an-hour pucks out of the middle of the air and just tip them right down to the net. I don't know how good Abdelkader is at doing that and just being a pet. He's good at being a pest. I'll give Abdelkader that, but he's not at Homer's level yet. That's a whole nother leap up.
I'm still holding out hope that Franzen will sort of replace Holmstrom, but if he keeps wandering away from the net like he's want to do, then he won't be. Abdelkader can fill that role. I don't think his hand-eye coordination is going to be as good, but he can fill that role. He doesn't seem to be afraid of anybody, and that's a quality that Homer exhibited time after time. He wasn't afraid of getting in the dirty areas and grinding it out to get the puck into the back of the net. He's not afraid of that. Franzen can be, and that's why, although I still hold out hope for that, because Franzen's size is just occasionally jaw-dropping and his hands are just great. The combination is jaw-dropping. I think Abdelkader certainly has potential to fill that role, but we'll see.
Abdelkader's got more of the mentality than Franzen, though.
He does. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Franzen's got the size and he's got the body for it, but he doesn't have the mentality and Abdelkader kind of has that. So I would give Abdelkader a better shot at doing it than Johan.
Talking about kind of the Thomas Holmstrom thing, before Thomas Holmstrom, there was Dino Ciccarelli. And Dino Ciccarelli did the same thing that Thomas Holmstrom did. Maybe not as well, but when Ciccarelli left, people went, he does it so well, we can't replace him, nobody's going to replace him, he's so good at it. And all of a sudden, here walks in Thomas Holmstrom, who did it extremely well, possibly better than Dino did, and, kind of made it his own. So after, these guys retire, there's always going to be someone who's going to go in and fill that role, whether it's as good or along that line. You never really know until, there's some experience behind it and all that. But, someone will fill that role. Whether it's as good as Thomas Holmstrom, I don't want to make you angry, Jordan.
It's not going to be as good.
But someone will take over that role and they will make it their own. And in a few years, it'll be their office.
No, we need someone to take up that role. You know what I mean? Because we've had someone doing that. So I think Abby is probably the best candidate for it. So get in there. He needs to put the shin pads on the back of his legs like Homer did too. Get all the gear. He's got to get all the gear, all the padding on the lower back for the cross checks and everything. He could just borrow all of Homer's gear and put it on. He's got to get ready.
Do you think he's going to get some power play minutes next season? I mean, in the shortened season, Gustav Nyquist and Thomas Tatar had more power play minutes than him.
I think Abdelkader gets more. Yeah.
Yeah. I think he is, because just of exactly what we're just talking about, that net guy in front of the net stirring it up and creating space for Alfredsson and Datsuk and Zetterberg. I think you're going to see him get more power play time than he's ever had before.
And again, he's more likely to stay in front of the net and not kind of wander off and do his own thing and be completely, disconnected from the play.
Who do you think takes his penalty kill minutes?
I don't know. Penalty killers, Miller, Anderson, Eves, and who else do we got? Helm?
Helm, yep.
You think that they're up for the challenge of? I know Helm definitely, and Anderson did a pretty good job, and Miller's probably the best penalty killer on the team right now with Helm out.
Yeah.
But that's a guy who's always kind of been on the penalty kill, and he knows his way around. Are these younger guys can be able to step up and take that role over?
I think so. I think that last year was a grooming year for them. They learned a lot last year, and I think they also made it to conference finals. Something went right. They were doing something right. The coaching staff taught them well. I think they're going to be able to find guys to get on the penalty kill. And listen, if Helm's healthy, Helm and Miller are two best penalty killers. I'm not really concerned about the penalty kill if Helm is healthy because he's just so dynamic on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think for Abdelkader's development, he has to get the power play minutes. That's where Tomas Holmstrom made bank.
Yep.
In his final season, he had 12 goals, and 11 of them were on the power play. I mean, half of his goals every season came from the power play.
Well, that's because he couldn't skate too.
He could skate.
I mean, Homer was not a good skater. Abdelkader's a far better skater than Homer.
I agree with that point. But he had the quick burst, which got him to the corner first.
Real quick.
Yeah. Not so much in his later years, but when he was a demolition man, he had those bursts where he'd get into the corner, knock the guy out, and then take the puck.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so today yesterday on the NHL Network was the replay of the St. Louis Blues Detroit Red Wings Game 7, 1996 Stanley Cup game, or Stanley Cup playoff game, I'll put it that way. And the Yzerman shot from inside the blue line, which went over John Casey's shoulder and in the net, and won the game in OT for the Red Wings. Is there any more influential goal in Red Wings playoff history than that one right there?
Yes.
I think I know what goal you're going to say.
Go no further than 1997, Game 4 of the Stanley Cup Finals. Darren McCarty goes around Yanni Niinimaa, slides it in behind Hextall, hits the glass. That's number one on the list.
I would agree with that. The Yzerman goal is legendary. It's legendary, and I still get goosebumps watching it, but we didn't win the Cup that year. Colorado beat us down in the next round.
Mm-hmm.
McCarty's goal in Game 4 of the final, that iced it away. That made it a reality, that the 42-year drought was over. It was going to end. And I don't think McCarty ever scored a better goal. And I don't think it was a more meaningful goal than Yzerman's goal. It's just as legendary. And McCarty pulled it off. It wasn't Fedorov, it wasn't Shanahan, it wasn't Yzerman, it was Darren McCarty.
Yeah, that was the best part of it too, because he was such a Detroit type of guy, such a blue collar guy, and I mean to pull off that move, you know what I mean?
He scored a goal that one of the Russians would score.
I know. I get chills just thinking about that goal. That's my favorite ever.
It's definitely a big one. I'd probably put that number one in my list as well. How about the Patrick Waugh Statue of Liberty goal?
That was a good one.
Too.
Just because he totally made himself look like a fool. Couldn't have happened to a better person.
He does it a lot. He did do it a lot. And that goal turned that series around.
Yeah.
They won that game 2-0. They tried to get Hasek's stick. Remember that?
Yeah, because Hasek gave him an illegal stick before the game.
Yep. And then they go back to Detroit, the series tied 3-3, and they absolutely smashed the Avalanche. And that game pretty much ended the rivalry.
Yeah, that was another huge goal. How about 2002 against the Hurricanes? Igor Larionov.
Another big goal. That turned that series around. That goal pretty much ended that series. The Hurricanes were never the same after that.
That was a beauty. That was way past Igor's bedtime.
It was.
Triple OT.
Yeah, so I think I'd go with the Darren McCarty as well. That was always the first one that was on my mind when looking at that. But There's always something magical about the Eisman one where it hits Gretzky's stick and then it hits his skate and he loses it and he's just kind of gliding towards Eiserman, and Eiserman just rips it.
Yeah, that was amazing. Got to give Gary Thorne a shout out too on the McCarty call. I can almost do that like word for word. Darren McCarty. The big Boston accent or wherever he's from. I love him calling that goal.
Okay, before we head out, any last questions or anything like that?
I had a thought. Just for my sake, who do you guys think should be the starter for the Canadian? Who should be the Canadian goalie?
Oh crap!
Why, Jordan?
I'm Canadian, and I want to know your thoughts.
I think it's gonna be Luongo.
You think it's gonna be Luongo? That's who you would go with?
Yeah. I mean, he did well in the last Olympics. He's the one who kind of brought the Canadians back into it. Broder kind of fell apart, and Luongo went in and smashed it. So I think he gets the call.
You're just forgetting about the way he's played the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Parts of the last 2 years, he gets a lot of crap, but he's still a good goalie. I think he's still a good goalie.
So you'd go Luongo too?
Probably. Yeah.
Did Cleary even get invited?
No, he didn't.
Good.
Neither did Cam Ward.
Oh, I heard that was a pretty big snub for Canada. Cam Ward
that surprised me that Ward didn't get invited.
And Mike Smith did.
Yeah.
And Smith's a really good goalie, but will he?
I'm a fan. I still like Carey Price, but he's never. That's kind of who I'm leaning towards, but he's never been to the final or anything like that. But I'm a big Carey Price fan.
Yeah, Carey would be a very good option. I kind of just forgot about him because you're thinking about the two, kind of legends for Canadian goalies in recent memory being Luongo and Broder, and you kind of forget about these other guys who are very, very talented goalies in
Yep.
Carey Price.
Price is terrific, but I think he's going to have to impress to start. That's just me.
What about Crawford?
No.
No,
Mm-hmm. I don't see it.
he got the invite.
I think he benefited a lot from. He definitely stepped up his game in the playoffs. But
Chris
you saw
Osgood
him-
syndrome.
Yeah,
Maybe a little bit of
Probably.
that.
but he kind of fell apart against the Red Wings a bit, and then he came back. So you have those holes there that you don't have when you talk about Carey Price or Broder or Luongo in those type of situations. And plus, about Luongo. I mean, he won you gold 4 years ago. How do you not go with the guy who won you gold?
Right, got to give him another chance, I think.
All right, I'll take your guys' word for it then.
I'm not.
I think
I'm not
you guys are
dissing Carey
American,
Price.
so you're just trying to tell Canada to get Luongo in there, so it will be brutal.
Hey, I'm half Canadian.
Okay.
I'm a dual citizen. Okay,
Yeah, who are you rooting for though?
it's the U.S.
Okay.
But
There
if
you go.
the U.S. is out of the game and I'm not upset if Canada wins. As long as they're not playing the United States, I'd root for Canada.
All right.
As long as Sidney Crosby doesn't score another goal that wins.
And
it.
I was upset that he scored that goal. I was like, because
I think a lot of people were.
He hadn't been good that whole game, and I said to my dad when it went to, I go, Crosby's going to score the winner. He'll get all the accolades, and then he did. But
Yeah, he did. There you go.
but whatever, we still won.
That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Too bad
Any
Crosby
last
scored
thoughts
it.
for you, Jeremy?
No. No,
Cool.
not much going on up here.
Well, for Jeremy Jordan, this is Peter. Have a good day.